Jennifer Esposito, General Manager, Health and Life Sciences, Intel Corporation. Welcome to Juicing with Gary.
Hey Gary, thanks. Nice to be here.
Oh, it's an honor.
I've never made juice before.
You've never made juice?
No.
Oh, this is a life changer. So I wanted to let you know that I made this just for you.
All right.
And I've actually named this.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you know what I call it?
What?
We got the beats, we got the beats, we got
Very
the
nice.
beats. Yeah, we got the beats.
I do like beets.
The Go-Go's, 1982.
Very
It's
good.
the year I got into healthcare, and so I was thinking about the beets. So we're gonna have beets along with our juice this morning. So what I'd like you to do is start to cut these oranges for me, all right?
I don't want to kill you here with a knife.
Oh yeah, well I'm just, and the good news is that the beets, we don't have to do anything, we just stick them in as they are.
They look a little dirty.
They're not dirty, they're natural. And you just start to feed away, right? Let's make some orange beet juice this morning.
There we go.
Look at this.
Nice.
And look at it coming in.
No stem in there.
All right, take it to your session this morning, right? Now, let me do the honors. You get the next one. Watch this. Watch what this does. This is beautiful. And by the way, these are golden beets
Yeah.
because I wanted to keep it the orangey color.
color.
You understand? Now, I'd like you to just grab the juice. Oh,
Good for you.
I haven't had breakfast yet, so I'm
So
excited.
you need some sugar
All
here,
right, well,
right?
I do need some sugar. That's why we use the beautiful golden sugar beet. All right, Jennifer, in all seriousness, we're just honored to have you here.
Thank
we're really
you.
excited to learn about you, learn about what you're doing. So thanks for juicing with me.
Yeah, thank
Let's
you.
go have some conversation.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Well, Jennifer, thanks for being here today, and thanks for juicing with
That was
me.
a lot of fun. Thank you.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah.
So we're excited to learn about the work that you've been doing and what's happening with Intel Corporation as you make an impact on the global footprint. But first, we want to get to know you a little bit. So tell me about Jennifer.
I was always curious about medicine and disease states. I was really fascinated by weird things, weird medical things, medical mysteries and strange diseases. Always did a lot of research in the library about that. There were some people in my family that had illnesses that I thought were undiagnosed or misdiagnosed, and I would spend a lot of time in the library thinking about, what can I find? How can I figure out what's really wrong here? Because I was kind of questioning what was going on. So always had an interest. And then when I went to college, I was going to do pre-med and didn't really enjoy the courses. So I ended up spending a lot of time, I was at Dartmouth College and took a true liberal arts education route. Enjoyed anthropology, I took ancient Greek. So had a ton of fun while I was in college. And then after college, I went to work for Scientific American magazine as my first job. So I stayed there for about 2 years. It was 1994, 95, right at the beginning of the dot-coms and the web. And we set up the first website for the magazine and an America Online site. But I still had that bug of wanting to go to med school. And so I went back to Dartmouth. I ended up doing a master's degree at the Dartmouth Institute. And the Institute focuses on health policy and outcomes research. So I did a heavy focus on epidemiology and biostatistics. And during that time, I also worked in the hospital on clinical trials and epidemiologic studies of skin cancer, bladder cancer, things related to heavy metal exposure. So I had a little bit of a taste of true scientific clinical research at the same time as I was going through the graduate program. My first job at GE was as a black belt, and so it was interesting because I used all of the methodology that I learned in epidemiology and biostat courses, but I was doing the research and the analysis on parts reliability, where I ended up working in the interventional radiology and cardiology service group, and I led the technical support team for that product line. And they were level 3, level 4 technical support, so they dealt with some of the more difficult challenges of repairing the equipment in the field with our customers. We worked really closely with our engineering teams to really understand what was going on with the product, and we actually also introduced new products into the market as a result of some of the work we were doing around understanding how to fix the equipment better, to diagnose failures, and these ultimately led to the capability to collect data from that equipment remotely. Ultimately, all of those things resulted in better care and better experiences for patients, so it was really important.
So how'd you find your way into Intel?
Well, Intel found me. And I thought it was a really interesting experience because, Intel is a technology company. I hadn't ever been at a true Silicon Valley type tech company before. And I think the other interesting thing about Intel is that we are the technology inside. I mean, everybody knows Intel inside. They know we make chips for computers. We're not selling end products to end users, so I'm not building a healthcare product per se, but what we do is enable the ecosystem. So within the healthcare, the health and life sciences industry, we work with our traditional partners, the ones that are more horizontal, like the equipment OEMs, big software companies, but we also work with healthcare specific industry partners as well to really promote the use of our ingredients, but also when people are using Intel inside their products, they're using it in the most technically efficient, optimized way. And really what we're trying to do is also talk about how Intel can really help from both from the CPU to the memory to the storage to the connectivity and all the way up to the cloud and everywhere in between. So we're really a broad technology platform that enables the rest of the ecosystem. And it's important, I think, for a company like Intel to be very visible in an industry like healthcare. It's a place where data is super important. Intel is a data company, and the data that we're seeing in healthcare is just exponentially growing every minute you talk about it. And so to the extent that we can really understand the unique needs of healthcare, the unique use cases, and really make sure that as we build our future product roadmaps out, we're optimizing to take advantage of that.
What are the challenges that you see? I mean, are there policy challenges? I mean, what really impacts us being able to do what you're attempting to do through Intel?
Well, I think when you look at something like artificial intelligence, you want people to have a comfort level with the capability. And I think, more broadly speaking, with artificial intelligence, there's lots of different ways you can use it. You can use it in clinical settings, you can use it in operational or financial settings. And I think, sometimes when we jump really fast to those clinical use cases, well, you can certainly do a lot of that today. I think that's where some people sort of slow down a little bit. They wonder, are there regulatory challenges? Are there risks that I haven't thought of? I would argue let's really leverage all of this existing data for some of those operational and financial challenges, which I do think translate into better patient outcomes, predictions of when people might decline in an ICU, or monitoring them in the home so that you can capture additional data for a patient with chronic disease. So I think people are ready to use it. I do think there are some policy potential challenges. I want to make sure and see that we really come up with a nimble way from a regulatory perspective to approve algorithms and new innovations in technology that are going to be used in healthcare.
You also deal with organizations beyond the United States. So talk a little bit, what are you seeing sort of globally that's occurring?
Yeah, well, I travel the world all the time, and I get to see a lot of really interesting things. I do think that outside the United States, there's a lot of really fast momentum around digital health in particular. And I think part of that is in some of the more emerging markets where you don't have a legacy technology infrastructure that's going to hold you back, you can really leapfrog 3, 4, 5 steps and jump right into a digital platform from the beginning. And so we're seeing the adoption of digital health, remote health, shifting healthcare outside of the hospital into the home being adopted much more quickly in other markets. The use of genomics around the world is starting to become much more commonplace, and the coupling of the genomic data with other clinical data around the patient is also becoming really interesting. I think the other transition we're starting to see, and I think we saw a little bit of that here at Health this week, is a transition away from a conversation around care and diagnosis to health and wellness, and I think allowing the collection of data more continuously with the patient in the home allows them to own their health more, and it really brings new insights because you're pulling data that isn't traditional healthcare data into the mix, and it's going to really drive, I think, a lot of interesting change as we move forward over the next couple of years.
Can you share any new news that's coming down from Intel?
So this week we're actually going to release the results of a study that we did about the use of AI, artificial intelligence, in healthcare. Some surprising results. We found that 37% of the people that we surveyed were using AI, which to me seems like a little bit of a low number given what we believe are the true capabilities today. And of that 37%, the use case that seemed most prevalent was more around clinical use cases, which I thought was surprising because people also highlighted the fact that some of the things that were holding them back for using AI was around fear and trust of that. So things like fatal errors or being able to repeat it, or maybe there's just too much hype on AI in particular and not being able to deliver. So I really think that if you think about those clinical use cases, I think people can start to really accelerate their use of AI by targeting use cases around operational and financial use cases where there's probably a little bit less of that fear and trust involved.
Well, we'll look forward to having that study and sharing that because that's incredibly important
Absolutely.
information. Thank you for coming to Health, and thank you for juicing with me.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun
I hope
juicing with you. Thank
I hope you
you.
enjoyed it. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Here's to continued success.
Thanks.